Ethan Sherwood Strauss. You can check his stuff out. House of Strauss has an awesome Substack. Wrote today about Steph Curry, has wrote about Kyle Shanahan and the covering of, or I guess lack thereof, in the last couple of weeks with his car crash. But obviously used to cover the Warriors in Bay Area at large for The Athletic and ESPN. And Ethan, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you saw, we just had a little bit of news a couple minutes ago.
Oh, boy. I just got in. Tell me about it. I feel ignorant.
No, don't worry. It has to do with Draymond Green. He is back with the Golden State Warriors in a one-year, $27.7 million deal. Basically the same one that he opted out of to give the Warriors flexibility to pursue LeBron. So that is just what came down, what we were discussing about a few minutes ago.
I'd say that's expected, but it speaks to some of the issues that this team has. There's a lot of money afforded to the top three guys. But continue. I'm here to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I do want to start there because we've been batting around this idea of what you kind of just led into of where this thing is going. And I felt like this summer the priority, especially with the lack of moves that the Warriors have made, has been optionality and flexibility. And this is something that preserves that. It also comes not with a no-trade clause. It gives them the possibility to move Draymond Green. And I think it speaks to maybe Mike Dunleavy beginning to put his fingerprints on this roster and the future of the franchise. And I just kind of am curious about your take when you see them, maybe for the first time, not giving Draymond Green something that he wants, which I imagine could have been more than 1 year.
I imagine it could be as well, but I'm also not sure where the market is. The NBA they've changed dramatically. The 2023 CBA, I still think a lot of fans haven't adjusted to it. I like to say that a lot of fans, they think that the NBA salary cap is fake, but the NFL salary cap is real. But the NFL salary cap is a little more fake now than the NBA salary cap. If you've got some money tied up in a second-tier guy and you're paying him top-tier money, it's now tough. People were saying, why can't Jaylen Brown find what he wants? Why is the market cool for him before he eventually came to Philadelphia and LeBron joined up? And the answer is that it's not like the old days where any all-star could just print money and get a max option. And one of the reasons for that is because a bad contract in the NBA kills you more than the NFL. We're trained to think in the NFL, it's a salary cap. Everything's got to be accounted for. But guess what? If you overpay a guy in football, well, you can just remedy that in the draft the next season. And that player, a player you might get in the second or third round, he might be good immediately. In the NBA, if you're not picking in that top three, you're probably not getting a star. You're going to have to wait a while. So when you lock up money with some of these guys who are not absolute top elite performers, it becomes a real problem in a way it wasn't. Additionally, sorry to monologue, the style of the league has changed. What I worry for when I watch the Warriors, and I want the best for them, I don't see this roster as anything resembling what I saw in the Western Conference Finals. What's winning right now in the NBA is being young and deep. That's what's winning. It's not like the old days. It's not like when the Miami Heat could have this huge advantage over the league because they had LeBron and Wade and Bosh and just patch it together with guys off the street. That does not work anymore. And the Warriors are in a tough spot because the way the NBA CBA goes, the old superstars just keep making more and more and more money. And now the structure and the system and the style of play, it's all combined to make it really hard to win a championship that way.
No, I understand. I hear you loud and clear, Ethan. I need your help. And I told Evan I was going to ask you, and hopefully you can. Steph Curry, I know he's presidential. He's been great. And I know last year he only played 43 games, Ethan, with the runner's knee. But if you're him and you're having or about to have these discussions about this extension, and I think he's worth all the money they want to give him, but I would hope that Steph finally maybe sticks his chest out just a little bit to demand more from Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob in regard to getting pieces that you talked about you saw in the Western Conference Finals. I'm getting some pushback. Do you think that's fair, and do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I think he has every right to demand more. But if he wants more, he might have to earn less. I think that's the situation right now. Because again, the salary cap is real. And I'm not saying, hey, everybody pressure Steph Curry. I understand that for all he's gotten paid, he has made more money for the Warriors than what he has gotten. A lot of what he accomplished, that came at a steep discount earlier in his career. And even to put a price on it, that almost seems insulting because he's given everybody in the region memories and something bigger than just basketball. But this is just a matter of how the structure is, and this is just how it goes. If Steph Curry, as he's entering age 40, is making $136.7 million over 2 years or whatever the extension is going to be, I'm not looking at it, so I'm not sure, but it's a lot of money. Right now, he's 38% of the cap. And if we want to have a real honest discussion about him, and I know it's hard to have it because he's unimpeachable. He gives you everything. He gives you everything he can give. But he's 38 years old. He played half of last season. They had a really cool thing cooking with Jimmy Butler the season before, but that ended because Steph got hurt, which that's not criticism at all. It's just what tends to happen to a player at this point in their career. So I guess what I'm saying is that I want Steph Curry to compete for a championship in the Bay Area. I just don't know how realistic that is if he is making the utmost. And again, it's what he deserves in a way. But if he is making that, given how the system is set up, I don't see how the Warriors can actually compete that way.
Ethan Sherwood Strauss joining us on 95.7 The Game. You can check out his work on his Substack, House of Strauss, latest piece on kind of this subject with Steph Curry. Also got into Kyle Shanahan's car accident, which we'll discuss in a moment. But I want to talk to you about Steph because it felt like that's what your latest piece got into, this uncomfortable truth about this rock and hard place that he and the organization is. And if he wants to be a one-jersey guy, he might have to make the sacrifice that someone of his stature, especially considering the value that he has brought to the Warriors, is almost unfair of him to ask. And so, we've been talking about August 29th. It's about a month from today, the day that he has to make a choice or is beginning to make a choice about his contract extension. And at this stage, you want the financial security, but I wonder, Ethan, do you think it makes sense for both sides at this point to put that off until a later date just to figure out not just what the Warriors want, but what Steph Curry wants and whether it's kind of a harsh reality of if you stay here, you might not ever get to play for a championship again?
Yeah, it might make sense to wait. I know Brian Windhorst wrote about how maybe he doesn't sign an extension so they can maximize their flexibility. I think a lot of it is dependent on what Steph wants. And I guess the main thing I'm saying, and I'm not trying to say it in a way that's critical at all, it just should be understood. It should be understood that if he takes that deal for 2 years near $137 million, that is not a deal that is optimizing a chance at winning. Now, maybe you say, hey, how can he trust management? How can he trust management if he gives money back, that they're going to make it worth his while? How can he do what LeBron just did with $8 million for the Sixers, given that the Warriors messed up this 2-timeline scenario, that they had a chance to extend it, but their 2 big draft picks in Wiseman and Kuminga, those guys were bust. So maybe he doesn't trust that he gives up money, it's actually going to come back in another way. I think he's got to make that decision. And bottom line, I think 2 points. The first is whatever they do going forward, it needs to be a mutual agreement. And that goes for whether there's a trade, then that trade of Steph would need Steph's say-so, and I would say primary impetus. If it's him taking the maximum amount of money that he wants because he believes that he has earned it, then that has to come with the understanding that the Warriors actually aren't going for a championship. I know they might say they are, but they're not in that situation. They're hamstrung, and it's just, look, man, this is your farewell tour. This is your Kobe's last couple seasons with the Laker scenario. And obviously, if he's going to take a discount, then that's a mutual agreement. So what I'm saying is this. I'm saying when it comes to the future and the Warriors, it's being decided right now, and it's going to have to be between Steph and the Warriors, and it has to be with some understanding that that near future, as sad as it is to say, eventually is not going to include him.
Ethan, the Warriors got their own problems, right? But what we do know is they were in on LeBron James, and that didn't happen. Jaylen Brown went from the Celtics to the Philadelphia 76ers. And what we do know is Bob Myers had a great run with the Warriors. And I told Evan and the listeners, and this may just be me, and you could tell me if I'm being overly critical, but it hurt not to get LeBron James from a fan standpoint. Wasn't in on Jaylen Brown. But the fact that Bob Myers, who wanted to go spend time with his family, but maybe did that and came back and helped facilitate these two deals, is it too far-fetched to say that's a bad look for the Warriors and Joe Lacob, that he was in on that?
Yeah, he wanted to spend more time with his family and more time away from the Lacob family is what it looked like towards the end of that.
We got a grading system. I'll give you a 4, Ethan. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit painful, but I also don't know how it's going to work out. Good on Bob for getting LeBron at that price. I think that is a deal indeed. But when I look at the Sixers, part of me wonders, is Bob looking at this like it's 2017 and this is how you build a roster in the NBA and everybody is a lead scorer and they're just going to have to figure it out? Because again, I don't see this sort of team as the one at the end as we approach June rising to the top. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out over there. Here's what I know, that if they had pulled it off and it was Jaylen Brown coming here and LeBron, as fans, we would be more interested. That would be more exciting. And I still don't think that would have gotten them to the promised land, given how the NBA is these days. So, yeah, I think it's painful that Bob did it. I think it's more painful that Bob made those picks back in the day. And look, I'm not saying I would have done any better when I was making those draft selections, but that's the real thing. And I think that's a lot of what I'm saying in today's article. I think a lot of people right now are mad at Lacob. I get it. I understand it. But a lot of that anger and energy, it's getting talked about as though what they're doing right now is the worst thing. Find somebody, do something. And I think the sad truth is the errors and the mistakes happened a while ago and the price is coming due. I don't have too much of a problem with how they're handling things right now. I just think that they're pretty stuck. And they're pretty stuck because those two picks didn't work out. And so if I have criticism for how they've handled the situation, it's less what they're doing with Steph Curry right now, and it's more that those two picks, those two timeline picks, they died on the vine, and they've brought us to the scenario that we're now in.
Ethan Sherwood Strauss joining us on 95.7 The Game, was with The Athletic, formerly ESPN as well. You can check his work out on the House of Strauss Substack. And I know we kind of spent a lot of time talking about the Warriors, but
stuff.
The reason I wanted to talk to you in the first place was about it kind of this, I don't know if the correct word is strange or weird. It certainly caught a lot of people's eye, the way that the 49ers have covered or chose to reveal Kyle Shanahan's car accident that happened now 2 weeks to the day. The news was broken over the weekend, basically 11 days after it happened, and details are continuing to come out. The latest one was that he was holding a cell phone, but he wasn't at fault in the car accident. And you wrote about how it's almost as if they turned what could have been, I don't know, small news into big news. And the way that it was covered, I don't know if ESPN has a hand in this with their new deal with the NFL Network and kind of the connection with the league, but just what caught your eye about this story? Because I think it's similar to what has caught the rest of ours.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I think, okay, what's interesting to me about it, and I think any value we can derive from this mostly just bizarre story where we're happy that Kyle Shanahan didn't die or lose an eye like Chris Sims said he nearly did, is that it's a reflection of how Kyle handles things. That's what people say to me when I talk to those who cover the 49ers. The Warriors and the 49ers are far different in how they interface with the media. And just think about the head coaches, the big personalities with a lot of power. Steve Kerr, he likes to communicate. He likes to talk. He likes to joke around with you. Kyle is almost like a mini Bill Belichick. He almost gives you nothing. Everything's very secretive. He's kind of glum up there. And it seems like the way he wants to handle it is, hey, this is a personal matter. I'm not telling anybody till I absolutely have to. Now, that's his right, I suppose. I just think that it made things seem more nefarious than they appear to be. Because if you have a car accident, and I saw people with the 49ers, I saw people who cover them trying to say that they handled things the right way and saying they handled it perfectly. Why have people speculate wildly? Control when it comes out. Well, they speculated wildly because you hid it for 11 days. That's why they wonder if something's wrong and nefarious. And if you act like you have something to hide, people understand hiding to be a form of lying. And I just don't understand why they did that beyond that this is Kyle Shanahan's style. Because that's what got everybody buzzing and wondering if there was more to the story than there was. Because boom, first day of training camp, you're making this announcement about something that happened damn near 2 weeks ago. So look, it's not the crime of the century to slow play that kind of news. I don't think it's a media conspiracy as many people are alleging. I just think it's a very strange scenario where most teams would immediately tell you that the head coach got in a car accident, but the 49ers just handle things in a different way. And it's not like everybody in sports media was looking into Palo Alto traffic and wondering if Kyle Shanahan might be in an accident this week. And if you're not looking for something, you might just not find it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Ethan, I just appreciate your honesty because, you know, to me, 50 years on this earth, I just know how the vessel and the medium of media works. And you see, and I'm not comparing this, so bear with me, what happened with the Bieniemy family and how that was reported. Tiger Woods, we kind of just watched that like a movie. Do you look at any reporters that maybe sat on this information, and only God can judge, but, you know, if you found out reporter A sat on this story, would you think differently of that reporter and how they do their job? Because that's what's shocking me. Anybody to have the power to kind of stop the vessel of what's supposed to be the obvious, the news, but you suppressed it.
So I think the devil will be in the details. I saw Mike Florio was going after my old boss and friend Tim Kawakami. It looks like Tim got word of it the morning before that they announced it. I don't think that it's incumbent on Tim to try to rush that news out there. What? So he can have a tweet about it? What's really the point of that? Now, if somebody knew about it and they're a reporter and they knew about it when it happened, then yeah, I would look at that as that's very strange. That seems like you're more a stenographer for the organization, that you're suppressing big news under this idea that it's personal. Yeah, it's personal in a sense, but it's not personal the same way some other things are personal. It's pertinent to one of the most famous people in the Bay Area who is about to kick off training camp for the 49ers and has been in a serious car accident. That's legitimate news. So I think it's been a little bit overplayed and overdone that people are sitting on this. The only guy I know in media who is sitting on it definitively is Chris Sims, who's Kyle Shanahan's friend, maybe one of his best friends. And he's not really a reporter. And so I don't even have a problem with it. I just think it's a strange story. I think it's a reflection of how the 49ers do things. And we mostly accept it, by the way. The 49ers attitude and Kyle Shanahan's attitude is, we make the football. Leave us alone. That's their attitude. And as long as, frankly, they win over 10 games a season, I know we want that championship, but as long as they stay winning and relevant, they're a big enough brand that there's nobody to really punish them for being so aloof. It's just how they do things.